TOB1 or Toby? That is the question.
I'm Toby too. Hey there, Nomads of Lore. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jonathan.
And together we are Mead and Mischief, your home away from no home.
That is correct.
Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Visions some more. This is kind of an offshoot of our series. We're going to be over the next few weeks talking, kind of reviewing each individual episode with some spoiler-filled reviews. In this video, though, we wanted to kind of review, kind of help you guys decide A, whether you want to watch Star Wars Visions at all, and B, because this is, if you didn't know, an anthology series, if you wanted to watch all the episodes or if you just wanted to watch certain ones, because they definitely are for different audience and different things. We're going to kind of break down we're going to kind of basically look at 4 different things for each episode. We're going to try to keep this episode relatively briefish. You'll see when once this video comes out. We're recording, so who knows? Yep. But yeah, so what are the 4 things we're going to talk about with each episode?
We'll do time codes also. Just
yes, absolutely.
So the 4 things are going to be, number 1, how well does it Star Wars? And what we mean by that is it a Star Wars like story? Could it happen is it inspired by Star Wars, or could it happen in the Star Wars universe? Yeah. One of those 2 things. We'll talk about both of those. Does it feel? Yeah. Does it have the Star Wars feel? Yep. Absolutely. And then number 2 is who would like it?
Yeah, who we figure would be.
So is it geared more towards children? Is it kind of everybody could watch it and enjoy it? Is it geared more towards adults?
Or anime fans.
Or anime fans or Star Wars fans or something altogether.
Yeah.
Yep. Number 3 is the art style.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about just a little bit briefly about whether we like the art style, what it kind of compares to. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about how well each one of them function as their own thing. So is it an encapsulated episode that works really well by itself? Does it need more time or more episodes? Do we want more time or more episodes based on what we got?
Corner of the Star Wars universe.
You get it. So we'll go from there.
Yeah. So before we jump into the episodes, real quickly, I thought it probably is useful to mention that we know a lot about Star Wars. We're fairly well versed in the Star Wars universe and know a lot of that and backstory. And we've experienced some anime, but we are very, 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 very far from being anime aficionados. And so there's going to be some things that us knowing some anime but not knowing the length and breadth of the catalog, we're either A, potentially going to say things wrong, or B, not know some of the references, some of the ideas and things. And so that's kind of where we're coming from.
Just bear with us.
Yeah, bear with us and just know that that's where we are.
Yep.
And so that'll make it more useful.
If you notice anything that we say that's wrong or that we didn't quite catch on why we thought something was weird or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely leave it in the comments below so we can know like you guys do.
Learn more things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So you want to get started?
So episode 1 was The Duel. In our opinion, we kind of started with this is going to be spoiler free, by the way.
Yes.
We're not going to divulge any spoilers that we're aware of. So episode 1, in our opinion, started off with a bang. We both really enjoyed episode 1. It was pretty cool. So on our first category on how well does it Star Wars, I would say that it only sort of kind of Star Wars is. We've got Jedi, we've got Sith, we've got red, blue, and green colors,
and
black
yellow.
and white, and yellow. There's a yellow in there.
I think there's yellow colors.
Could be true. Yep. So we've got kind of Star Wars color scheme. We've got Star Wars droids, kind of with a Asian twist. It's got basically an R2-D2 character with a straw hat in there. It kind of follows the classic samurai, lone samurai, which, here in America, we might know, if you're old enough or watch old stuff, as the lone gunman, with a past goes in and protects the village, so it's that story. So it works in Star Wars universe, but you could have this story not in the Star Wars. In fact, that this story exists in a lot of things. So it only sort of, that's my opinion on does it Star Wars. It sort of kind of Star Wars. I don't know that it's has to be a Star Wars for it to
It
work.
definitely has a Star Wars theme and
Yeah.
thematic with, like you said, with all the things involved. There's a droid, etc.
Yeah,
There's
Sith, lightsabers.
There's lightsabers.
Yeah.
Yep, that
Cool
kind of thing.
lightsabers, actually.
But yeah, you're right. The story itself and the plot definitely not as Star Warsy, but it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who would like it? In my opinion, as far as I think this is definitely geared more towards adults. I think definitely teenagers could watch it. There's not very much gore, even though it's a little darker, and I think that's just due to the art style.
Yeah. Well, that and there's some intense violence stuff
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
As to whether your younger kids could watch it, that's kind of, you probably want to watch it first.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, definitely,
yeah.
definitely. There's no blood or any gore or anything like that, but it is intense. Yeah,
But it's yeah, like Jonathan said, this one older audiences could definitely enjoy more.
Yeah,
Some of we'll get to some of the other episodes that are definitely more geared towards kids. So the next thing we want to talk about is art style. This is the most review-like portion. We're not going to go deep into reviews. We're going to do that in our individual videos.
Yeah.
But we figured we could talk about the art style spoiler free, so it's been have a second. So this is a very interesting, more unique in this series art style. It's pretty much all black and white except for splashes of detail color, red lightsabers, green and blue.
I'm not sure about
LEDs,
the yellow.
lights.
I don't remember.
There may or may not be
Yeah.
yellow. It may just be what is that Mandela effect?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. But it's.
Well, what's the Berenstein
The Berenstain or the Bernstein or the
Bernstein Bears
all
or
that
the-
stuff.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the art style was we both liked it. The
Yeah.
framing shot was beautiful. I think Jonathan really loved the art style.
Yeah, it's very grungy and dark and
Yes.
and I mean it's definitely got anime tinges for sure.
Sure.
But I enjoyed it a lot.
The scenery
I loved,
is elegant, beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
sweeping.
The motion also is very cool. It's the way they do some car scenes and some vehicle scenes and some stuff. I love the way that things move. There's a lot of like choppy motion almost, but very. I don't know how to explain
And
it.
this
You have to watch
is
it.
probably one of the only places that I think we kind of disagree.
Yeah.
Because for me, the way they did motion, it's almost rotoscoped, kind of. It's not quite. I don't think it's quite that technology. But to me, it kind of took me out of the episode a little in my headspace. I don't know that I disliked it as much. It's more like, but it was interesting for sure. Yeah. So
No, I liked it.
yeah, the last thing.
Okay, so last was how does it function as a standalone? And this probably above all the others, in my
Absolutely.
opinion, I think it functions very well as a standalone.
Yep.
It has a definite beginning, definite end. You get enough character building of the main character
Yeah.
and of the bad guy that you get a good feel for the whole thing, and you know what's going on, and you don't have any parts in the episode where you feel like, wait, where the heck did that come from?
Right.
Because as we go on down
Well,
this list,
there's some wait what kind of moments that it would
Yeah.
be curious. Like I would be curious to see some of the ideas developed in other Star
Yes.
Wars, but this story
Yes.
itself. It like I don't need to know more about this character,
Yeah.
or the Sith.
Well, and
character or
there wasn't
whatever.
anything where, and probably because of what the story was about,
Yes.
there wasn't anything where it was like a character acted out of what you were expecting for that character. Because
Sure.
a lot of these other ones, when something happens, there's a change or something on a lot of these other episodes, and you're like, wait, where did that come from? That character, I didn't get enough character build to understand why they made that decision, or there's not enough backstory, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
This one does a very good job of being its own thing. I would love to see more in this art style. It obviously couldn't be, and maybe more travels of the same lone
The art style but-
guy.
Yeah.
But it in and of itself, it was very good standalone. So I want to move
Absolutely.
on to number 2.
Yeah, number 2. So we're probably going to spend one of the lesser amounts of time talking about this one. This was probably both of our, I don't know for sure, but it was my least favorite episode by a wide margin. So the second one was Tatooine Rhapsody, right? We're following a young Padawan who ends up joining a band, basically, and ends up kind of having to save one of the members of the band, or try to, and chaos ensues.
Exactly.
It's not exactly chaos, but anyway, this one. So our first question, of course, is how well does it Star Wars? So this one, we're kind of split on, because we kind of defined this two different ways. Not he and I, but just kind of thinking about this in two different ways. So on the one hand, it Star Wars is pretty well. We've got classic Padawan braid things. We've got classic pod race arena with Jabba the Hutt there. And, some of these, we've got Boba Fett in there. So on the one hand, Star Wars is really well. Like it fits within the Star Wars universe and all that kind of stuff. On the other hand, in our opinion, it doesn't Star Wars very well because, in our opinion, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars story. Which, again, Episode 1 didn't either really necessarily, but we liked Episode 1. So we're not saying that this is like the definitive good or bad or thing,
definitely not.
but it felt very kiddish. It
felt very disconnected, honestly. And I know a lot of that has to do with the fact that it was geared towards children. And
Seems like it.
And I'm not that style of anime fan. So granted, if you are, maybe you would like it more.
Sure.
But I guess that goes into our
our
next part, which is who would like it. And I think it's very much more geared towards younger children. I think some as young as 3 or 4 or 5 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood, could watch it because there's no scary parts that I really remember. There's no
maybe the beginning kind of. It's not. It's less scary probably than the beginning of Finding Nemo.
Yeah,
yeah.
So young kids, you can definitely check it out yourself if you need to before you before you let them. But I think it's very.
The themes are pretty not like.
The music is very. It's funny because it's like punk rockish, which normally is like. Well, anyway, it's very happy punk rockish. Yeah. It's not sad and mean and hateful teen
emo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's who
it might be a fun one to watch with your younger kids.
Maybe the whole family. Maybe.
So how well is it at, art style. I keep almost forgetting art style. So this is kind of, to me, when I watched it the first time, and this is what I said to Jonathan, I think he agreed, was that the art style in this one is kind of what people that don't necessarily watch anime stereotypically think in their mind to be anime. The typical big-eyed characters and, kind of over-the-top, cartoony but stylized cartoony art style. I didn't hate the art style personally. I mean, I didn't like the art style wasn't that it wasn't my least favorite as far as art style goes. It was fine. It fit the story. I would definitely think that. So it was fine. It was not my favorite, but it wasn't awful. Last one. Does it function as standalone or
how well does it function? Yeah. So.
I was thinking about that.
I don't know. I think
it kind of does.
Yeah, it does function as a standalone. There's a beginning and an end.
As the first one.
It's true. It's true. There's a beginning. There's an end. You feel fulfilled at the end.
The story's complete.
And
for us, it's definitely all we need of that story.
I could totally see this being like a kid's little like
PBS Kids
mini series PBS Kids
level thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, it's a standalone for sure, and it functions
Clone Wars
as
level animated show.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
So number three,
the twins.
Yep.
So we watched this one, and coming off of the second one, we really liked the first one, and then the second one we were both like, "What have we watched? What are we doing now?" And then coming in, because we watched the first 3 back to back, and so after coming off the second one, we watched the third one, and our initial reactions were kind of like, what have we watched again? What is this? And both of us independently, the further we've been removed and the further we've thought about this, because this one we didn't record our reaction to it right away. The third one
was probably a good thing.
Yeah, it probably really was, because the further we've gotten removed, the more we kind of like it. So the first question here: how well does this Star Wars? So this one is almost the opposite, in my opinion, of the second one. On the one hand, it kind of looks Star Wars, like we've got the big Star Destroyer with the big old giant gun. So in that way, it's like very Star Wars. But to me, it feels very Star Wars, and by that, in this context, it feels very original trilogy, hope for the universe, Star Wars. Like there's hope happening in this episode. It was filled with hope happening in there. And I won't get too much because I'll get into spoilers real quick.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting story. You know, we start off with these twins that have been raised by the dark side or in the dark or whatever, and then they're trying to make this. The plot is pretty ambiguous and whatever else, but they're it's very Star Warsy, right? They've got a big gun will travel, I mean,
Exactly.
and then it unfolds and stuff and whatever else, and so yeah, it kind of feels Star Wars, but it doesn't look like Star Wars. Like we've got weird things happening with lightsabers extending into crazy things and
infinity
whatever
and-
else,
yeah.
and so there's feels Star Wars, but it's still very very.
There's
anime.
a move. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's a
No
move
spoilers.
that happens that I believe is better than the original. So you'll know what I'm talking about when you watch it.
Yeah, well,
hopefully.
and we'll tell you can link it in the iCard
Yeah, we'll
depending
link
on
it. Yep,
when
that's right.
these come out. But we'll talk about this moment that he's
So,
talking about.
Who
for sure.
likes it? Who would like
Yes.
it? Yeah. So I think this one is probably more in the middle teen years. That's what I'm guessing.
You'd have to be okay with anime style, like this one is very over the top anime.
Yeah.
Like there's some very the fight scene that happens is very stylized and big and
very
it's much more the fight stuff and whatever is much more anime than it is Star Wars. It's
like
less
almost-
rounded.
it's not. I'm not saying don't eat me up in the comments for saying this because I'm not saying it's exactly like or it looks like, but it's almost like the feel of a Dragon Ball fight where it's very
Or Naruto
over the top.
or any
and
of those. Yes.
yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. So you have to be okay with wild stuff. If you like the more groundedness of Star Wars, which is kind of a goofy thing to say, but if you think the more over the top, silly is the wrong word, but I can't think of a better one.
Silly.
Sort
I
of
think
over the topness of kind of an anime feel. If that's going to put you off, then you may not like this episode. But other than that, absolutely, a teen,
Yeah.
adult. I mean, it's probably
Yeah.
more directed at teens. My kids
Yeah.
have watched up through this one. They liked it,
Yeah.
down through 8 years old. And so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all about the art style.
It was interesting. It reminded me of it's more modern anime to me. Like it's
Yeah.
more CG. Like it's
Yeah.
cell shading taken to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Kind of blocky. It's not
the
my
ship
favorite
was really
style,
cool.
but it worked.
Yeah, the ship was really cool. The way it looked. They have a very
Like the white when it-
iconic. This is not really a spoiler because it's the very first scene, but it's a very iconic scene of the shade going
Yes,
across the top
yes.
of the Imperial.
Yeah.
Whatever, and it worked.
Yeah, I
very
agree.
well for
I
that.
agree.
It's definitely not my favorite out of them. I think
It does have one of the moments that when we were originally watching the trailer for this show, we were both like, "Wow, that's really cool."
Yeah.
In this episode, so it does have some cool stuff in there, art style wise, for sure.
So next, how does it function as a standalone? And I think it functions okay as a standalone. It has a beginning and an ending. There's a few parts that you could use a little more backstory, for sure, with characters.
I don't think you have to as much on this one
No.
as in some of the ones later.
Yeah, definitely not as
Right.
bad as some other ones. But I think there's a few little pieces in this that could use some more backstory. But for sure, I would love to see more.
Yeah, I
This
would,
one is
for
one of
sure.
those that I could see becoming a miniseries or even a 10-episode series, and getting a lot out of it.
It would be fun. I would watch that.
yeah.
I would watch a few more episodes of this. I don't know
would
how
too.
much more you could this concept you could drive into the dirt really quick.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
But
Yeah.
we would watch more of this. For
Awesome.
sure.
So number 4, The Village Bride.
Village Bride. Yeah, so the Village Bride was this. I think the easiest way for me to talk about this one, as far as what it is to answer our first question, and that is how well does it Star Wars? And my opinion is it almost doesn't. It like this one felt the least Star Wars to me. I liked this episode. It felt very culturally Japanese, like kung fu movie / anime, like poetic anime, whatever.
Yep.
It felt very Japanese culture, and enough that I didn't even get all of it. What was and whatever else there, that like some of these characters going to these sacred places and whatever else was it was interesting, but it didn't feel like that episode. I think you could have just said this is not Star Wars and taken out some of the specific verbiage at a few points, and it could have
never
been.
know.
And
I disagree a little bit.
Okay.
But that's just, I do think it had several. I mean, it obviously had several Every single one of them has Star Wars elements as far as lightsabers and whatever. But that doesn't make it a Star Wars story. I think it had enough of the apprentice and master kind of in the sidelines. But the problem was
you finish.
The problem was that by the end of it, you ended up wanting to know more about the non-Jedi characters and the planet that they were on than the Jedi. You didn't really care. Anyway, so that's as much as I'll say. I agree for the most part with what you're saying, but I think there was a little bit in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, don't get me. I'm glad you said that, because don't get me wrong. I mean, they're all inspired by and have Star Wars elements. All of them do. Every single one of these. But it was it was definitely one of the least for me too. One of the as you were talking, and I almost interrupted you. I'm glad I didn't. Good job, Sean. But anyway, one thing that's interesting about the show, and this, I feel like this episode probably as much or more than any other one kind of epitomizes this idea, is this, and we talked about this when we reviewed the trailer or whatever, the kind of circular nature of this whole thing. Because a huge influence, not the only, there were several, Joseph Campbell and some other things, but a big influence on George Lucas was some of these ancient cultures, the samurai, right, and all those kind of things, samurais and ninjas and all that kind of stuff. All of those things were a big influence, and we see that in several different places in Star Wars, and so that he was influenced, and then now Star Wars is influencing these things, and we get some of these original. So like you were talking about Master and Apprentice. I mean, some of that is, that's old school. That's old school, like Buddhist thing, whatever else, and all. That's old school Asian influence too. So it's kind of all the way back around, which is really kind of fun and really kind of cool.
It is.
Yeah. So who would like it?
Yeah. So, I think this one is definitely it's kind of like the last one. It may be a little more adult. Not like it's got anything bad in it or anything, but the context and some of the nuances of what characters are talking about and stuff, I think, are on the high, like at least upper teenage years to understand and really realize what's going on.
Get everything that's happening.
Yeah,
sure.
And not that a young kid couldn't watch it at all. There's nothing really in this one. I think there's a little bit of violence towards the end with obviously with the ending fight, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, what do you think?
I agree with that. People that might not want to watch this one too is like, this goes into our first point is if you are wanting to watch Star Wars Visions and you're really wanting Star Wars, and that's mainly, and you don't really care about the anime stuff and the Japanese inspiration, all that kind of stuff,
then you're not gonna
then
care about
you may not like this one as much. But if you want kind of a really beautiful story that's well told, and you don't mind it not being deep in Star Wars, then it's worth checking out for sure. Absolutely.
What about the art style?
The art style was fine. Like the art style on this one, it was beautiful. There was some really pretty. There was some pretty stuff. Some of the we'll call it Jedi Temple stuff. For you have to get that. Anyway, some of that stuff was the way it was animated and shot was really beautiful. It was really pretty. But so it was nice. It was anime. It was anime quality. As far as quality art stuffs. But other than that, it was fine.
The only thing for me, the thing was, it was a little simple. The
Yes,
anime was simple,
yes.
but the thing that really got that I enjoyed myself was the colors. There's a lot of sunset scenes and stuff like
Sure.
that, and so there's very. It just reminded me of like West Texas sunsets and sunrises, like
sure.
that. The
Yeah.
oranges and the blues and all the orangey red, purplish blue kind of.
There's a lot
It was
of
really cool.
environmental themes, and
Yeah.
they did a good job of letting you feel that.
Yeah.
With this, like what we said at the beginning, with this planet and this
Yeah.
and all the things going on there for
It
sure.
was really cool. So, how well it functioned as a standalone? Uh, okay, it functioned as a standalone. I think it had a beginning. It had
They
an
all at
end.
least sort of kind of do.
Yeah. So there's more context needed for sure in some of this, a lot, because there was scenes. There was a scene specifically. I'm not going to go into it, but I did not understand it because I don't have enough context as to what the culture is going on with them, and it may be a lack of knowledge of Japanese culture, it may be a lack of knowledge of anime,
Right.
but there was just a few scenes that were like that, and so
Yeah.
I ended up, like I said earlier, thinking, I could really use more episodes, but it's not really a Star Wars thing. So I don't really care about the Master and the Apprentice or the Jedi that are in it. I would love to have more episodes of just the supporting characters and the supporting
Yeah.
cast and their planet and what's going on there.
It as a spin-off anime show would have been fun.
Yeah,
And would be interesting and
Yeah.
would help that episode. Oh, for
Exactly,
sure.
exactly.
Would be great. It would this one maybe not at. I mean, there's still I think one or two more that really would benefit from having more.
Oh, yeah.
But this would definitely benefit from having more and more context for sure. Longer episode, whatever else.
So number 5, The Ninth Jedi.
Yeah.
How well does it Star Wars?
So this one I thought Star Wars really well. This was probably my favorite episode of the 9
Yeah.
personally. It worked. It had a lot of things going for it. Like it had almost the Tatooine moment of a Luke-like character leaving on a quest. I mean, it's small in this really encapsulated short story. We didn't say at the beginning of these are all 20 minutes ish. The longest episode 20, and the shortest one's like 15 minutes. So these are all pretty short. But so it had that. It had this Jedi, this story, this kind of mystery thing going on. In this story. It's hard to know. It was hard to know on this one, on several of them actually, when this. It was hard to know whether this was set a long, long time previous to the original trilogy, basically, the Battle of Yavin, whatever, or a long time after. It could have been either one. But in this episode, there's kind of Jedi, but lightsabers have kind of become extinct, and there's not very many Jedi, and they've been hunted, and all this stuff happening. Right, that's kind of the setup. So it's not spoiler at that point. But and what's gonna happen there, and so we get this other character that's this kind of this Jedi character, and he's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, hopeful character.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of that hope that is central to, which is why I get irritated when we do these things that focus so much on dark side in Star Wars. But that's more a personal thing, different video. But it felt good. But it did, and it's partially because of art style, which we'll talk about in a minute. It also the visuals felt a little less Star Warsy to me. It almost had a Knights of the Round Table vibe as far as the look of some of it, like some of the stuff in the cave scenes and stuff. But as far as feeling Star Wars, like in here feeling Star Wars, it felt a lot Star Wars to me.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it was probably the most Star Wars like for me as well, for sure. Who would like it? I think really anybody who likes Star Wars that enjoys.
It's okay with watching animated.
That's okay with watching anime. It doesn't feel like a little child when you're watching an animated series. Yes, it's definitely probably a little older theme. There's maybe a little bit of scariness, but not anything terrible. Just with the Sith kind of thing.
Yeah.
And or the robot, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of Sith in this episode. So if you are not really sure what Sith are and all, if you're confused by that and you want us to talk about it, and help you understand some of those concepts, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
There is.
A lot of Sith in this show.
There is. So I think if you like Star Wars, you like anime, you would like this for sure. I think age wise, probably somewhere in elementary, I would think, and older.
Yeah,
Your kids could watch it, right? All of your kids.
Well, to be honest, I think I feel like my kids could probably watch any of these.
Yeah.
I didn't think any of them were like super scary or anything personally, but
I agree.
I think it's easily that. So the art style, I feel like this art style in this one may be a bit polarizing for some folks, possibly. To me, it felt very classic 80s anime style art style, and I liked it a lot. Yep. I thought it fit the theme and the story really well. It's charming and beautiful, and that's what it was like to me. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would add is that I really liked the scenes where they use a lot of light. They became very fuzzy focused, like kind of shallow depth field almost, or maybe not shallow depth field, more like a kind of
like motion blur or
no. It's like the light is kind of bleeding into the scene, even if the light's not in
kind of a lens flare,
kind of thing. Anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I'll go back and check that out. I didn't notice that. That's cool.
Yeah. So, how well did it function as a standalone? I would say this one definitely functioned beginning to end, probably as well as the first one, if not better. In my opinion, it was very, very good. You had enough background of each character, just little tidbits that came across, with the exception of one. And you can look at that in our review. I'll talk about that. Yeah. But in the same vein, I definitely could use more of it.
Yeah, I think this one I would really like, because there's a lot of Star Wars like that could be canon stuff in here. The show as a whole is not really canon, but there are a lot most of this episode I could see being transplanted into some of the things and blossoming out into a canon.
There's some really cool, unique, I don't know how I feel about some of them, but there's some really cool, unique ideas that kind of take the Star Wars original thought of how something should be, and they kind of twist it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's actually really cool. If you watch it, what I'm talking about is the lightsaber. If you've watched it, what I'm talking about is the lightsaber portion.
Sure.
Anyway, there's some really cool stuff in it, and I would definitely, this is probably out of all of them, I think this is the one that I would love to see more episodes of, and could see it blossoming into more. So how well, or what's number 6?
TOB1.
Toby
1.
Toby.
They say both things
TOB1
in the episode. So from the what's it called? The trailer, right? They talked about this. This one they wanted. We're trying to basically make something like an homage to Star Wars and Astro Boy, and kind of that old charming childlikeness that's in Star Wars, and some of those things that were nostalgic for some of the studio and creators there. And they made this cute robot story, whatever, that's environmental focused, basically. Mm-hmm. We'll talk more about the details in our review of that episode. There are several things that I think we both have several things that we want to talk about, and I don't even think they're the same things. It was interesting. So how well does this one Star Wars? I don't know. I mean, I
was waiting for we kind of talked about several of these, but anyway, this one's...
there were, and some of it unfortunately that I think doesn't Star Wars well, we'll have to wait and talk about in our spoiler filled one, because there's a couple things in particular, one that he pointed out that I didn't even think about, and then another one that I wanted to talk about that kind of breaks, like hardcore breaks, and doesn't work in the lore that we know.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I mean, the cutesy droid, that's Star Wars. The hopefulness is, I mean, sure.
And it's definitely inspired by it. It's got some elements. I do like how, I think this attacked. The target audience for this one was also young children, just
Yes,
like
episode
two.
Yes.
And I think this one did a much better job of a good story, even though it doesn't Star
One that
Wars
could
very
also
well.
be enjoyed by adults better than the
But
second
yes,
one,
it can
I
also
think.
be enjoyed by adults. But I think it just has the thoughts and ideas that they present are really good, and I think it just didn't. The execution was not there, but it was better than number two, in my
our
opinion.
Or in our
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
Your mileage may vary.
I would sit down with my nephew and watch this,
Right.
and watch maybe even a couple episodes of this because it's
Sure.
got enough Star Wars in it, and it's not so like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, why am I doing this to myself? Kind of thing, like
Yeah.
you feel sometimes.
Yeah.
So, what about the art style?
So the art style was interesting. I think you have some things you want to talk about, maybe mismatching on the art.
Yep.
I thought the art style was kind of fun. It was childlike. It was whimsical is a really good word. I don't remember. I think they may have used that in the trailer, but it matched some of the more whimsical things, and it felt whimsical, and it matched the story really well. I thought overall. I liked it. I think I liked the art style in this one better than you did. You had some
Well,
thoughts
it
about
wasn't that I didn't
about
like
this,
it.
but-
I really thought it could do really well because when you first see the very beginning, the landscape is really pretty. I like kind of that. I like the grungy stuff. Like I really liked episode 1 because of that grunge. The landscape in this episode is very grungy or painterly styled, kind of almost sponge like on the edges. It's very
Right.
soft, and you can see a lot of texture in it. The characters, however, are very smooth, and I think there was kind of a disconnect for me about like. It almost felt like they did all the landscape in one go, and then they came back and they did the characters in another go, and then they just they put the two together, and it.
The characters were kind of, to me, it reminded me mentally a little bit of like old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Where
Yeah.
it's very simple art
Yeah,
style,
it was.
so it's repeatable and because
And it
money.
did look a lot like what I remember Astro Boy looking like. And there may have been I should have gone before we watched this just to watch a scene from Astro Boy
Right,
to see
to
if they
compare.
did this same thing, and maybe that's why they did that, why they chose the way they did that art style. But I felt like I really wanted to like this art a lot, and it just didn't quite make it there for me. So, how well does it function as a standalone? I'm torn about
think
this
it
one.
works as a standalone
It
myself.
does. It has a beginning and an ending. There's just so many questions in it. But anyway,
we're hedging because there are some stuff that we'd like to talk about in our review, in our spoiler filled review, because there are some kind of universe break, not only Star Wars universe breaking, but like breaking within the episode itself,
without its own, within
its
itself.
own
Yeah.
encapsulated
Yeah.
thing. And so there's some stuff that doesn't work, but I think without like not talking about the broken things, I think the story works.
Yeah.
And the characters
Yeah.
work, and they're fine within where they
Yeah.
are.
And does it need more?
We don't want more.
We don't want more.
That's
But
us personally.
I can kind of blanket say this for all of the episodes. I think all of them could use more. If they had more time, they would all be better. Honestly,
I don't know if the first one could have been. I think the first one told
with the
its-
exception of the
that's-
first one. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But all of them, I think if they had given them more like a 30 or 40-minute length time, I think it would have been a lot easier because we've already talked about a
Two
lot
or
of
three
different-
of them could be within a whole, like you said, miniseries and maybe even more. Some of them, but
Yep. So how do number 7?
So the Elder. So I think we were both kind of excited about this one, and which was the Curse of Expectations. Because
Always
which is frustrating, you know, and that's one of the things that inspired us to make this video. I kind of alluded to that at the beginning that this we want to help you with your expectations, because
Yeah.
I think if we had different like if we had expected different going into some of these, we would have liked it better on first blush, right? All these episodes, I think we've only watched once. Actually, I've watched the first 3 with my kids, and whatever.
I've
But
watched a couple of them twice. But
yeah,
yeah,
but I mean, but we haven't watched these enough. We haven't watched them with detail, fine tooth comb, or anything like that. But this one, it was pretty good. It was interesting. Had David Harbour voicing it, which when I very first heard the voice, I thought, oh, that's Harrison Ford. Oh no, it's not. And so I looked it up. But anyway, it was interesting. The characters were interesting. Like the characters were fine. We had this very stoic Jedi, which was kind of off-putting throughout for me. Like it's hard to get attached to it.
I think you're talking about the master.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it
agree.
could work, like,
I agree.
especially if we had more time
Yeah.
to get to know. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it worked. So how well does it Star Wars? I think now, having said that, I think this one Star Wars is very well.
Yeah.
Like very well, really. Like I could absolutely see this story being in a canon Star Wars book.
Yep.
Pretty much all of it, honestly. The elder character and the Jedi Master and Jedi Padawan. They felt very canonical, Master and Padawan. They absolutely did.
I've been saying master and apprentice this whole time.
Well,
I mean, it's the same thing.
Sith.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So it Star Wars very well. I mean, it could have, like, in a different art style
Yeah.
and different vibe.
Yep.
It kind of felt like a mini Clone Wars episode. Like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
this one, you said 5. Honestly, I think this one probably Star Wars is, in
The
my
best.
opinion, the best of
Okay.
all of them. I liked Episode 5, The Ninth Jedi, better, as
Yeah.
I liked it better personally.
I can see that, though.
I think this one Star Wars really well.
I can see that.
personally.
So who would like it? Let's see. I think this one's an everybody. I really do. I think
Pretty
it's
much, yeah.
there's a little the Sith character is a little scary. Like,
Yeah.
again, if we go to age range, maybe young kids might be
Yeah.
scared. Whatever.
Your
but
miles may vary.
yeah, but
family.
as far as everybody enjoying it, if you enjoy anime, if you're an adult and you enjoy anime, you will enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
if
think
you
as
enjoy
a kid,
animated
you will definitely,
Star Wars.
yeah, I think you would
yeah.
enjoy it. Yeah, I think it does really good.
Absolutely,
So,
I agree.
what about the art style?
The art style, I mean, other than some of the things, I thought the art style was kind of like the Village Bride is kind of fine. It
Yeah.
was good. I mean, it was darker, like the palette was darker
Mm-hmm.
overall. It felt more night-like, which is fine. I thought it felt
Less
the tone of it.
saturation,
Yes,
too.
there you go. That's technical terms there. Art major, basically, kind of.
Not really.
Sort of. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's less saturated. It fit the tone well, and it was good. It didn't wow me and blow me away, but it was fine. It was nice. I thought.
Yeah, yeah.
There was some interesting lightsaber things. The Sith lights, I thought that was kind of interesting. Some of
Yeah.
the way they did his lightsaber sword.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, how well did it stand alone? I think that it does a pretty good job. There's the only problem with it that I had was that the bad guy, the Sith character, you don't have any backstory on him.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
And it would have been nice.
You get some good backstory on well, I say good backstory, just some backstory on the Padawan, the master.
Yeah.
But and you get to build with them a little bit before the ending. But the Sith you don't at all, and so that was the only part in it for me that I was like, okay, it's a little jarring to just he's just evil, so let's kill him kind of thing. But anyway, other than that,
Yeah.
I
think this would have fit much better in like this story. Well, I don't know about much better, but this story would have been really nice in like a novel, or something. I mean, like I could absolutely see that. It would have been really interesting potentially.
And it definitely would. I like to see more. Yes, if they had several episodes, I could totally see more about this, especially like prequel episodes to this. So yeah.
So episode 8, La Pinocho. This one was for us the most letdown, but I really think, like I talked about a minute ago, that is much more to do with expectations
Yeah.
and than lack of quality. I think Jonathan was let down. Probably I did. I was let down. It was a letdown for me. I think Jonathan felt it even more or so. This episode it looked interesting. We've got this kind of different alien that's kind of rabbity whatever character, which is cool. Star Wars has had interesting alien characters since the beginning. It's fun to see more of that. I love that. I feel like anime stuff is a great place to introduce that, so that was fun, and that was not the problem, right? But this one kind of suffered from it not being what we thought it was going to be, which is, I know that's a stupid thing to say, but it did, and that's that.
Without being spoilery, that's
Yeah.
about the only way to say it, right?
Yeah, and it didn't work as well as we hoped it would. It was not terrible. There were some things I personally liked about it.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and it is watchable,
Yeah.
in my opinion, our opinion, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And whatever. So how well does it Star Wars? There were some things that worked that were very Star Wars, and some things that weren't. Like the whole kind of some of the premise, like the Empire coming in and trying to take over this planet and the
Use
local
the
population,
resources,
all that kind of
basically.
stuff. Yeah, so I mean that
enslave the
definitely
population.
fit. Was
Yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
canonical idea.
Yep.
Right, and the whole alien person. Orphan, basically, being taken in. That's a very Star Warsy type feel, for sure. The progression of the episode was Star Warsy. The pacing and the way it actually worked out, we'll talk about more in our other video. But the overall plot, sure, it fits. So it's Star Wars is fine.
Yeah.
And we have other issues with it. I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think for who would like it, if you like the Japanese backstory and the history, kind of like what you were talking about as far as where Star Wars was pulled from.
Sure.
There's a lot of that, like
Kinda
family
samurai
and samurai and importance
Absolutely.
of family and
Yes.
giving things down. What is that called? And like your
Lineage?
giving things down to your kids.
Heirloom is the word, but that's not quite right.
Yeah. Anyway,
But yeah, passing things on.
passing things down to your children. All those like Japanese ideas.
Yes. And Star
think-
Wars thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think if you like those and you like Star Wars, I think you would like it. It's as far as age range, I think it's pretty much like we said about most of them. It's
Yeah.
there's nothing too crazy or violent or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the art style?
So the art style, actually, this one, in my opinion, was better than fine. For me personally, I really like the Lop character. Her characterization, like her art, like her visual
visualization.
style. I like that a lot. I thought that her little eye thing was a little bit over. It almost felt cliche.
Oh,
by the end of the
it was
episode.
funny because it was like
I liked it, but it was.
It was like, why did she even have that?
Why was that? Yeah, it was just But anyway, I liked her characterization a lot. I like the design of basically her adoptive father is very samurai inspired. I thought that was fun. It's less traditional Star Wars, but it was fun. I like the art style pretty well. I thought it was pretty good personally.
Try to get this thing to wake up. Sorry. All right, there.
Or notes. Yeah, so I like the art
Awesome.
style pretty well personally.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with the Lop character, and the landscape and the action scenes and everything. I think this was on the upper end for me, as far as it was not as good as number one by any means. But there's some that are just a little too simple.
Yeah.
And this was not one of those.
Too typical, maybe.
Too typical. Maybe that is the
Yeah.
I felt like when you're doing this and I had very high expectations for the art.
Sure.
Because this is an opportunity of a lifetime for these anime studios to get into something this large. And so I was
It's large
expecting
in the U.S.
in the U.S.
this
Yeah,
market,
that's
right?
true. And they do have a much bigger audience over there. But for getting something this large in the U.S. market, and I was expecting them to bring their A game, and some of them did, and others not. This one was good. So how well does it function as a standalone?
It doesn't.
It doesn't at all.
Yeah. It needed
Probably one of the worst as far as
It needed a whole lot more.
one of the key pivotal changes in a character is not explained at all. It is just flip a switch, and
You can make sense why it would happen. Like, if you're being very
guess.
generous,
You can guess.
Yeah, you could get. Yeah,
but it is not explained.
well, and there's a
visually
lot
or
of background.
verbally
It
or
would have been
anything.
nice to understand more about the Lob character. It would have been very nice to know the ramifications and the future past the episode.
It's one of those where it's like they give you a little bit of the beginning,
Yeah.
and then they say 7 years later, and then this huge thing happens, and you're like, what
has
happened in this 7 years? Like,
Yeah.
give us some kind of context
Yeah.
or clue or something. So anyway, for me, it did not do well as a standalone. I would enjoy seeing more. I think. I don't know. I
If there
think
was
it
more
would
to
have
this episode, if there was more here,
Yeah.
this might have been one of our favorites or our favorite. I mean,
Yeah,
which is
100%
You know, at that point,
that
you're
one.
comparing apples and oranges, but there was a lot of potential here. There is a lot
Mm-hmm.
of potential in this one. It just needed a whole lot more in it, and to be what we wanted it to be. Yeah, absolutely.
So last one, episode 9, Akakiri.
Sure.
Akakiri.
Sorry for any
Akakiri?
butchering.
We're probably killing it.
Sorry. So this one was the most depressing to me. This one, well, and I'm going to talk about several of them. So
We sound really negative about all these. We're not really.
not really.
No.
Again, the point of this video is so that you can hear some of the through lines and what you like, where you would want to watch, and what your expectations should be, and whatever else.
And
It's
hopefully,
not-
if you hear a little bit of the little bit of hints that we're giving whenever something does happen, you'll be like, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't let you down quite as much as it did us.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with any of these episodes. Like, as far as they did a good job.
Yeah.
But we're just giving the.
Well,
anyway,
one of the biggest when we started to try to going to make this video was we watched the first episode and then we went to the second episode, which was hugely jarring.
Yeah,
the
it is.
difference, and
It
so.
is.
Anyway,
It is.
yeah, without continuing to make this an hour-long video.
Yep.
The last episode, sorry, I'm not even going to try.
Akakiri.
Sorry, I hope I'm not cursing in
how well
Japanese
does
or
it
something.
Star Wars?
How well does it Star Wars? There were some elements. I think overall it doesn't Star Wars very well. It felt very much more like a anime Japanese story than I mean, it's again, like we said, they all are inspired by or in the Star, whatever. But there were some elements that were Star Warsy, like the conflictedness and the force visions that happen in different places and all of that. So there were definitely elements, but this one could have not been in the Star Wars universe, pretty much, in my opinion. But
I think it. Yeah, I am with you mostly there. There is some of it that, again, it feels Star Wars-ish, but it's very, there's nothing in it that is done super well in the short time frame. I think this one, more than almost any of them, I've talked about it over and over and over. If they had more time, it would have been better. I think this one, at least one of the top ones, that if they had had more time, it would have been better. If they had given us another 20, 30 minutes of, they jump around a lot, and there's not a lot of character building, and there's a lot of scenes where you don't understand.
we have a traveling story in 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. We have with
with side characters that show up.
not really Lord of the
and-
Rings traveling,
but
but
yeah, that
like it's
it's a journey story
journey
for a
story,
lot
exactly.
of it. I mean, a good chunk of it until the end or whatever.
Yeah.
So who would like this?
Yeah.
People that are interested in Japanese culture, I think. People that would like to see some of that. There are, and we may talk about this in the art style part and whatever. But it's worth even starting to bring up now. We both had the suspicion and the feeling that there were things in this, including the art style, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And some. That felt like if we knew what we were watching better, if we knew the anime influences that it was pulling from, the Japanese influences that it's pulling from better, we might have liked it better. It seems that way. So that may or may not be true on this one.
Yeah.
But so if you're wanting just the straight up Star Wars story, you probably won't like this one very much, in our opinion. You may be wrong, of course. But
Age range.
could be watched by I think the villain, especially because of the way the way she's animated, it might be scary to some kids, especially in the U.S. That's the maybe cultural thing there.
And
I think it was animated, kind of leading into our next one. The villain was kind of animated in such a way that we felt like was fairly off-putting, but probably intentionally. I know that's done in anime, and things where that's
the only other thing that was kind of there's a very dark scene in it, or a very dark part, and so that may, I don't know, that may
depending
depending on the age range. Anyway, art style wise, I liked this one probably least. I felt like I don't know, it was just weird. It was weird art style.
It's a taste thing. This one you may like, but you look at the thumbnail on this one to get a beginning idea of it, because it's we've talked about some of them being too simple. This one doesn't fit that category. Too simple or too typical. It's not that. And this again. I really think, and I think Jonathan at least sort of agrees with it, that I really kind of think this one may be a cultural difference thing, which is why we have struggled with it, both art style and even story and some of those things. It's I think we as Americans are struggling with it, and we're not saying it's bad that it just I think that may be one of the reasons why we don't like it as much. And if you have we like learning, we love learning about culture and lore and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what our whole channel's about, right? But and so we'd love if you have other references and other things that we can look on this one, especially. I'd totally look at that. I would totally watch things or even read some things or whatever else because I love learning about culture, all cultures, and so I agree. I think that's one of the issues with
how well does it stand alone. I think it does an okay job. I think again it's rushed, but
fairly
but there is a beginning and there is an end, and
the story itself is fairly encapsulated. If we spent more time with some of the characters, some of the emotional impact of the episode would be greater. This episode is one that's trying to get you to feel things, and because of the length, and
you should definitely check out our review whenever we get that done, because there's a very key thing that we keep talking about it without talking about it, but there's a very key thing that if you'd had enough time with the characters then it would have been more impactful. It would be as impactful as one of the other shows that Disney did recently. And I won't say anything more than that, but it would be good. So absolutely. We enjoyed this trip with you guys. Hope you get something out of this video.
Believe it or not.
Hope you get something out of this video and you're able to actually enjoy the ones that you see. Maybe you haven't watched them yet. I hope you haven't watched them yet, and hopefully this helps you. Thank you for the subscribers. We're
Absolutely,
up to
yeah.
almost. We're like 2 away
As
from
of this,
300.
we need 2 more. Just
Yeah.
click the button.
That's right.
Dang it.
That's right. So thank you guys. Comment below anything, anything we missed out on or didn't understand. If you could help us, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We love to talk about it. Yeah, for sure. So like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Are they a dyad in the force?
I'm Dobby. I'm Dobby too.
That was dumb.
I'm Dobby too.
It's me, Adobe too.
I'm a Toby.
Couldn't do it.